Hey friends, Andrew here, hope you're well. I am super excited today because I have my first ever Samsung phone here, the new S24 Ultra. If you know me, I love Apple products. I currently daily my iPhone 15 Pro here, but before all the Samsung super fans grill me, I am not obsessed with iPhones. In fact, I personally think they have plenty of flaws. So I think it's time to start branching out and get a taste of what Samsung has to offer. This is a brand new unit here that I got with my own money on launch day, which is today. So let's get right into unboxing Samsung's Galaxy S24 Ultra together, and I'll share my first impressions as a self-proclaimed Apple fanboy and compare it to the iPhone 15 Pro. Okay, so here is the box itself. I think it is quite similar to the iPhone packaging with the two pull tabs here, and it's just a really thin type of box. It looks quite nice, love the jet black look, but let's go ahead and unbox this. Open it right up. That is a nice looking phone. So it's obviously quite a bit larger than the iPhone 15 Pro here. This is not the Max, this is just the 15 Pro, and it is significantly bigger. What's also much bigger is the camera lenses itself. It does not have a recessed notch like the iPhone 15 Pro does, but it is really large camera lenses there, which I'm really excited to explore. And just like the iPhone 15 Pro lineup, the S24 Ultra here has become more expensive this generation, but the iPhone 15 Pro is still slightly more affordable than this. I've heard so many great things about the performance, display quality, and especially the cameras on the Samsung lineup. But as you know, this year there's an absolute treasure chest of AI tools on the S24 Ultra, which we'll talk about a little bit later. The S24 Ultra here has a very distinct look. It's much more angular and aggressive than the iPhone 15 Pro. And the rear cameras, like I said, are uniquely and individually mounted, unlike the camera notch of the iPhone 15 Pro. I think this has like a more typical, softer look with rounded corners and that very prominent camera bump here. They both look iconic, but at the same time, very different. But I guess, obviously, they would otherwise be a crap ton of lawsuits between the two companies. But one thing that is identical this year is the fact that they now both have titanium side rails. And just like the iPhone 15 Pro, the S24 Ultra feels very light, yet sturdy and premium in hand. So I believe this is 233 grams or about 8.2 ounces. And the other factor that the iPhone clearly differs is the action button right here. So the action button, there's no equivalent from what I see on the Samsung. You've got essentially two buttons, I believe. But like I've said in my iPhone review, I am not actually a fan of the action button. I don't use it much at all. I still prefer the mute switch rocker on older iPhones. But anyway, before we power on the S24 Ultra, let's open up the display cover here. Yeah, this is a really large display. So far, I really like the feel of this phone. It feels incredibly premium. But before we actually power this on, let's take a look at the box itself and see if there's anything else in here. The box, super simple. I don't even know if there is. There we go. Got obviously the SIM card key here. And then we've also have the Samsung Care packages. No stickers, unfortunately, unlike the Apple packaging. And you've got a USB-C cable to USB-C. So pretty stock standard stuff, very minimal packaging. I believe that's all there is to it. Yeah, that's literally it. And the last thing that I've missed here is, well, two things actually. You've got, I believe, the stylus, which I'm really excited to use. This is gonna be interesting because, as you obviously probably know, there is no such thing as a stylus with the iPhone. Not sure what applications will be useful with this stylus, but I am really excited to use this. And then of course you still have a SIM card slot here, which is really nice. It's not just eSIM. So let's just check that out. Pretty stock standard. So that is a really nice addition because, as you probably already know, US iPhone 15s, they do not come with a physical SIM card slot anymore. However, because this is an Australian model, there still is a physical SIM card right there. Okay, so let's boot this up now. I am really excited to boot this up because, like I said, I have never used a Samsung Galaxy phone before. But while we wait for this to boot up, it's worth mentioning that Samsung will get 7 years of post-release support, according to Samsung, which is really generous and a big promise to hold up. iPhones, on the other hand, usually get about 5 years of support at maximum, which is still generous, but it's not quite the 7 years that you get with Samsung's promise. So Samsung definitely wins there. Okay, so let's go ahead and set this up. All right, so I finally have the S24 Ultra set up, and there's a few things that I've noticed immediately right off the bat. So if you know, with the camera notch, it's quite large, so this does not exactly sit flat. But actually, the similar situation with the S24 Ultra, it does not sit flat on the right-hand side, so it is a bit jittery, as you can probably see and hear there. Not a big issue, but something to point out, I think. The other thing that I noticed is the setup process is actually quite long compared to the iPhone, but the screen is beautiful. The first impression is it's really vibrant, sharp, and I believe it has a slightly higher resolution QHD display than the competitor at 1440 by 3120 resolution. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has a resolution of 1290 by 2796, I believe. So to the naked eye, there's no major difference, but I have to say the S24 Ultra is very sharp. Also, a lot of people seem to be glossing over the fact that the anti-reflective screen on the S24 Ultra is really good. In this brightly lit studio room, even with a dark backdrop, it dissipates, as you can see, the reflections pretty well in comparison to the very reflective iPhone 15 Pro. The anti-reflective screen on this is really good. I think Samsung calls this the Gorilla Armor Glass, and Samsung claims it reduces reflections by up to 75%, but it does work really, really well. So real quick, let's jump into the camera app because I've heard and seen some real good things about the camera. The pre-release reviews and photo comparisons look pretty bad on the Samsung compared to the iPhone 15. I've heard that highlights are completely blown out and there's like a purple hue to all photos, but I'll give this a test because with its full release, it should be much better. I've heard that Samsung always updates the image processing and refines it months after launch. Apparently the base S22 has better HDR and highlights than the S24 Ultra currently, which is insane. But that should be fixed up with post-release software updates. Let's take a look at the front camera here. So I know there is a lot of post-processing that happens on the Samsung, but they're both 12 megapixel front-facing cameras. The camera notch is very nicely a small punch hole compared to Dynamic Island over here, which I am really not a fan of. Currently, there's still quite limited support on the Dynamic Island, so I don't really use it. It's quite a, I don't know, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but it's quite distracting when watching full video content on a full screen, whereas this is really nicely integrated as a very small punch hole. But besides that fact, both front-facing cameras about 12 megapixels, and I think there is a larger aperture on the iPhone 15 at f1.9. So it performs a little bit better under low light situations, but I'll have to test this in my full review. So I spent the last 20-ish minutes playing around with this phone, getting used to it, and there's a few interesting finds here that I want to share with you. The first thing is this display is very, very bright to the point where I can't max it out in terms of brightness, otherwise it gets overblown in this video, as you can probably tell. But yeah, it's extremely bright. It's like 2,600 nits. It's significantly brighter than the previous S23 Ultra. I believe that phone was maxed out at about 1,700 nits. So this is going to be much easier to use in bright daylight. Also, just spending some time getting through the menu, it is extremely snappy. It's powered by that Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipset, which is significantly faster than the Gen 2 chipset. It's also the first ever phone to include generative AI on its silicon directly. The other really big difference between the new phones is the launch of the new generative AI capabilities, which I think is coming to older Samsung phones. The date isn't confirmed yet, but it will come to the S23 at least. So I've been playing around a little with the generative AI capability. So like, for example, let's go into YouTube and let's click on my video right here. So now with the Stylus generative AI, let's turn that down a little bit. I actually find, that's actually something I wanted to mention. I actually found the speaker to be nowhere near as impactful as the 15 Pro over here. Spatial audio on the 15 Pro, absolutely amazing. So far, I haven't tested it properly, but the speaker isn't as punchy or nowhere near as punchy. The clarity isn't there either, but I'll have to test it properly. Anyway, so playing around with generative AI, I believe you hold onto the home button here, and then you've got, let's click try it now. So I've just paused the screen here at an app that I am talking about. It's called Portal, but let's see if the generative AI tool can actually find out what this app is if I, for example, didn't mention it in this video. So let's hold onto this and then circle this section right here. Let's see what happens. Okay, I don't think it's as accurate as I thought it would be. So it's bringing up Meta Quest, Oculus, that's obviously not right, but let's maybe try a different example. Let's go back, maybe search the app icon. Let's see what happens there. So I'll hold onto the home screen again, circle that. And there we go. I mean, that works. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. So look, obviously it's not as perfect as it should be. It brought up, instead of the app, it brought up the Portal game, which is a great game, by the way, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. I think that might be it though. So really, depending on what you're looking up, it seems to be a hit and miss in my experience anyway. The other thing that is really important to mention is that Galaxy AI is a huge selling point, but it's not going to be free forever. It's actually going to be a paid feature from 2025 and beyond, which is a massive shame. But either way, I am still really keen to test out Galaxy AI, see what there is to offer. So make sure you're subscribed with the bell notification on if you want to be the first to see my honest review of this phone after I spend a week or two with it. And if you made it to the very end of this video, comment the code word galactic and I'll give it a like for watching until the very end of this video. And if you want to check out my review of the iPhone 15 Pro, I'll also leave the video here for you to check out. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.